In this video, we are going to check out a very cool gambit, also known as the Traxler Gambit, and this gambit also known as the Traxler Counter Attack. And this gambit is so deadly that I can bet on this gambit that after watching this video and learning this gambit, you are going to win a couple of games. And the games are going to be very interesting and you are going to have very much fun. This is chess all about. So let's check it out with this deadly gambit. Come on. So, Traxler Gambit is played with the black pieces. Black is the one who sets the gambit for white. So white starts out the game with 1 e4 and black responds with e5. Knight f3, knight c6, and here we have bishop to c4 by white. So we have the Italian on the board. Very standard variation and a very standard opening. And here black usually plays bishop to c5 and we have the Goku piano. But to play the Traxler Gambit, we are going to play knight to f6, developing the knight. And after playing knight f6, your opponent tries to play knight to g5. I think many of you know this very famous trap, you can say, because white is simply hitting the pawn on f7 with the bishop and the knight. And the line says to play d5, white takes. Taking is the blunder because here we have knight f7 takes, queen d3 check, queen f3 check, king e6, knight c3, and it's winning for white. But the line is to play knight a5, bishop check, c6, takes, bishop d3, and there is a very long variation, a very long theory. But at the place of playing d5, I must recommend you to go for playing this. Bishop to c5, a very cool move, you can say, cool move. You are saying to your opponent that I don't know how to play this line. I'm basically allowing you to capture my pawn on f7. I didn't see it. I'm simply developing my bishop because black idea is to castle in the position. And here after playing bishop c5, your opponent is very happy, is tremendously happy, and he's going to grab the pawn on f7 in just a second with the knight. The idea of capturing the pawn with the knight is because it hits the queen as well as the rook. Yep. So after playing knight into f7, your opponent is thinking that we are going to move the queen, he's going to grab our rook, and he's simply winning. But after playing knight into f7, we are simply now going to start our Traxler Gambit. Bishop into f2, check, boom. Capturing a pawn. Hitting the queen, hitting the king. And here white is actually having two standard moves in this position. To play king f1 or to go for capturing the bishop on f2, we are going to look at both the lines. First, what will happen if white tries to capture the bishop? We are simply going to capture this pawn with the knight, give a check. And here, white is having basically 6 moves to continue the game. King f3, king e3, king e2, king e1, king f1, or king to g1. There are basically 2 moves that survive and all the 4 loses the game. First, we are going to check out these 4 moves. If white tries to play first king to f3, we are going to play queen f6 check. Grab the knight, check. We have d5. Open up the position, and here the bishop is open, and the king is tremendously weak, and it's completely game over position for right. Yeah, you can just already sense it. So, sorry about that. So, king f3 does not look a right move. If white tries to play king to e2, then we are going to come up with knight to d4 check. King comes forward, hitting the knight. We are going to play queen h4. And our idea is actually very deadly to play this queen to f2 check, very deadly, or even knight f5 is very deadly. Black plays rook f1, stopping this ideas, you can say, because queen f4 was game over for, not game over because king is having the square, but it's already over. We have d5, tremendously powerful move. White grabs the pawn, we play bishop to g4. Hitting the queen, you cannot play this queen because knight c2, check, and the queen is dead. And there is no more to play after bishop g4, the queen is trapped. This is the famous Traxler Gambit. So this is what happens if white tries to play king to e2. If white tries to play something like king to e1, we are simply going to come up with queen to h4 check. You basically can sense this Traxler Gambit that we basically attack by giving checks to our opponent and we win the game. Queen h4 check. Here our idea is to simply play knight f2 and it's game over for white. So if white tries to play g3, which looks the very common and actually the best move, we're simply going to capture the pawn. Pawn takes, check. King is forced to come on e2 to defend the queen, but now comes knight check. The king have to move, we are going to capture the queen. It's over for white. So this is what happens if white tries to play king to e1. If white tries to play, g3 is forced. If he tries to play king e2, then queen f2 check, king here, knight to c5, check, it's mate into king c3, and queen d4, game over for white. So king e1, we have saw it, and now finally we have king to f1. If white tries to play king f1, we are simply going to play queen to h4. Idea is to give a checkmate on f2. So white defended by, there are two basically moves, queen f3 or queen e1. If white tries to play queen f3, knight d4, hitting the queen, you have to defend this square. And actually it's already over after knight d4. You hit the queen, you hit the pawn, you are also threatening a checkmate. It's already over. And very important note to everybody watching the video, d5 are some you can say natural moves in the position which comes, you basically sacrificing the pawn, but in the exchange you open up the bishop. So look, check out this d5 ideas whenever you are playing the game. So this is what if white tries to play queen f3. Now let's check it out what will happen if white tries to play queen e1. Queen e1, very natural approach. White wants to trade the queens, but now we come up with an extraordinary move, knight to g3 check. The rook is attacked. Moving the king doesn't make sense. Yeah, if you try to put this, queen into c4, it's over. There are two moves, queen into or pawn into. If queen into, which looks natural, white wants queen trade, we simply capture the bishop with a check, king move, takes, white is the pawn up, black is the pawn up, and it's completely winning position for black, because the white king can no longer castle. And okay, after knight g3 check, if white tries to capture with the pawn, we simply have queen into c4 check. King moves. Remember, you must not capture the rook, but you must capture the bishop. King moves. Queen into f7. Black is still a pawn up. It's the winning position for black. So this is what happens if white tries to play king f1. Now let's check it out, these two critical moves, king e3 or king g1. Mostly your opponent is going to play king g1 because the king is safe on g1, the king is not safe on e3. If white tries to play king e3, we are going to play queen h4. Queen h4 is a move that comes in many variations, so just check it out. So after queen h4, black is defending the knight, and there are some ideas of putting the queen because it hits the bishop horizontally. After queen h4, queen f2 looks a deadly move, and queen f4 also looks a deadly move. So there are basically two moves for white to continue the position, d3 or g3. If d3 hits the knight and defending the bishop, we are going to play, it's a two movement. Queen f4 check, king e2, queen f2, and the game is over for white. So after queen to h4, if white tries to play g3, hitting the queen, now comes knight into g3, pawn into, queen check, king moves, and here what is the move? Here basically capturing the bishop is not a right move because knight into h8 and black loses the rook. But we are going to do a castle in the move in this position, which is impressive. Basically, the knight cannot move because the king is attacked, and now we are aiming for hitting the bishop. And there is actually no good move in the position to continue the game. If white tries to play like d3 defending the bishop, I can simply go for playing d5, hitting the bishop. And now you have to move the bishop, and I can simply go on and capture the knight, and it's completely winning position for black. it's game over for white already. You can't even play bishop to g3 in this position because I can still play d5. Hitting the knight, I'm having a perfect center. It's already game over for white. So this is what happened. This is actually the key move to castle in this position. So I think I've covered these two natural moves in the position, which are the most natural moves. If your opponent tries to capture the rook, even still there, I discussed it. Queen f4 check, king e2. We have a check. King moves. We have knight to c5 check. King plays, and queen d4. Game over. So we have discussed king e3, and now it's finally time for us to discuss king to g1, which is the best move. But now we are going to come up queen h4. I just play queen f2 checkmate. And here white is having two moves to continue the position. Queen f3 or g3. Yeah, because both moves defend this f2 square. If queen f3 defends the f2 square, now come knight to d4. Hitting the queen, hitting the pawn. Queen moves because queen still need to protect the square. We simply capture the pawn, hitting the queen and the rook. Queen moves, we come back, and actually after queen e3, we must take a draw because it's actually the fourth variation. Because if you try to grab the rook, knight into h8 is winning for white. That is the reason you can simply take a draw because white cannot do anything because it's checkmate hanging on f2. That is the reason. Okay, so this is what happens if white tries to play queen f3. If white tries to play g3, which also looks a very natural move, your idea is to play king g2, bring the rook in the game. But now we are going to sacrifice our knight for the pawn. Pawn takes. And here we have queen to g3, check. Queen to g3 check, king f1. And here we are going to play rook to f8. And here white already looks like game over because white king is extremely weak. Our rook is strong. Perhaps at some point black can even go for d5, very deadly idea. And I think it's already over. It's already over for white. Although it says that it's an equal position. For example, if white tries to play like d3, a fine move, we are going to play knight to d4. And after knight d4, what are you going to even play? Like if white tries to develop the knight, I can play d5. A very deadly move again. Our idea is to develop the bishop. And after bd5, I can play c6 first. And here, because I want to move this bishop from defending the knight. Bishop c4, and now we have bishop h3, check. Rook h3, queen h3, it's already winning for black. So this was the deadly variation. So we have discussed all the 6 moves, and now finally we are going to discuss what will happen after bishop into f2 if white doesn't capture the bishop and plays king to f1. After king f1, we are going to play queen e7, defending the queen. And here, black idea is already to play rook f8, and white is actually forced to capture the rook. What is there is no meaning of playing knight to f7. You must capture the rook. Takes, and now we have bishop to b6 coming back to b6, and the bishop controls all the dark squares. So basically, black is a piece down or full rook down. But now black is threatening a very deadly attacks. Queen c5, checkmate ideas. Knight f7. In this position, there are 2 moves. Knight f7 or knight c3. I've covered these 2 variations because these 2 are the most natural move. Even d3. If knight f7, pulling the knight back, I can play d5. Hitting the bishop and pawn. And basically, now I can go for capturing the knight. If pawn takes, then I can play queen into f7. If you try to grab the knight, I can grab the bishop, and it's winning for black completely. If bishop takes, then I can play first bishop to g4, hitting the queen. Queen moves, takes, pawn takes, queen takes, queen moves, takes. It's game over for white. Yeah, it's a checkmate. So this is what happens if white tries to play knight f7. And now let's check it out what will happen if white tries to play knight c3, defending the pawn on e4 with the knight. Queen f8. Hitting the knight on h8. The only move knight f7 to survive the position. Actually, the best move in this position is to play bishop f7 check, winning for white. But I'm personally consider that this move is actually nearly impossible to find if your opponent have not if your opponent have not seen the position. If your opponent knows this position, then definitely bishop f7 is going to come. But if your opponent doesn't know the position and he's looking the board at the first time, it's nearly impossible to find this move because I can move the king. And now I'm hitting the knight and the bishop. Although I can't hit the bishop because the knight is protecting it, but the knight is simply trapped. So playing knight f7 looks much sensible because it is also protected by the bishop. I'm going to play queen to c5, now threatening a checkmate. White plays queen e2, defending the square, and now we have knight d4, hitting the queen, queen d3 because queen e2 is the only move to defend it because the bishop was also hanging. So we have knight d4 hitting the queen. Queen is forced to play d3 to defend the bishop, and now we have knight into c2, threatening a mate. Knight is forced to go back. Knight takes, and it's completely winning position for black. We have gained the rook. White position is already collapsing. It's already over. So now let's check it out. What will happen if after king f1, queen e7 takes, bishop, if your opponent tries to play d3, which is also a sensible move. After d3, we are going to come up with d5, hitting the bishop and the pawn. Basically, the basic idea is to hit the bishop. Pawn takes. If pawn takes, we are also going to check out the bishop takes. Bishop g4 hitting the queen. Queen moves. Knight comes. Pawn push hitting the knight. Check. And now comes the. This move is actually nearly impossible to find. Knight e4. Wow, what a move. Basically, it's an epic move actually. Pawn takes is fourth because you can't move the queen. It's already over for white. So pawn takes, check, g3, takes, hitting the rook, pawn takes, and here we have bishop takes, giving a check, king move, check, 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 takes, check, takes. It's winning for black. So I think I have covered mostly all variations in the Traxler Gambit, and if I'm missing something then please tell me in the comment section below. And if you have liked this deadly Traxler Gambit, then make sure to like the video at least, yeah, some respect. And please make sure to share this video with everyone so that every player who likes to play the complicated game, because this Gambit I personally feel was very complicated, and if you have learned it, congratulations. And yeah, make sure to at least subscribe the channel because it motivates me to upload new videos like this. So I'm going to come up with these interesting content like this because I like to make videos. So till then, stay tuned. Keep watching OneShot Chess.